Another thing that I noticed is a game called Little Nightmares. Now, for those of you that watch my channel, you may already know about my love of this game. You bitch. You may know my love of this game, both Little Nightmares and its DLC, Secrets of the Maw, which is actually going to be updated 7 days from now. For those of you that watch it, be looking forward to it. It's coming, and when it comes, I'm gonna finish off Chapter 3, which is supposedly going to be the end of Secrets of the Maw. Now, there may be more games in the future. They're kind of hushed, like tight-lipped about it, not really saying, but they also seem to like the way they were hinting at it, because I saw a post on Twitter that they may revisit this idea, which I'm hoping that more Little Nightmares games come out. Now, I'm the first person that goes, when a good game's good, let it die and don't, play it into the ground. But Little Nightmares seems to be passionate about bringing out games and its predecessors and it being good. I'm hoping they don't turn into like most conglomerates where they make a good game like Halo or Call of Duty or whatever, which I'm not a Call of Duty fan, but a lot of times the first game is amazing and then the games that come after it are complete shit. Halo, in my opinion, would be a good example of this. Like the first, maybe 2 or 3 were decent. I'd say the first 2 in particular. And then after that, it's just kind of more like fan service at this point. Like anime where they brought out like, oh, we're going to bring out Sword Art Online. Oh, now we're making Sword Art 2. And then at one point, I think they said they made a Sword Art 3. Now, I'm not hating on anybody who loves these things. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have made these things. I just hate when they're poorly done, rushed, or just... It just doesn't seem like they took the effort because they know they have the fan base already, if you know what I mean. And then they don't follow up on it. They just they get away with doing the bare minimum, and they use the fact that they have the popularity of the fan base to keep making them. Kind of like the Star Wars movies. Am I saying they shouldn't have made more Star Wars movies? I'm not saying that. I mean, I probably wouldn't go and see it, and I haven't seen a lot of like the newer ones, purely because I lost interest. I saw some of the new ones, like the first 2 or 3, and I was like, it's alright. The first or the second one was alright, not so much the second one, if I recall, but with Little Nightmares, what impressed me was the fact that not only did they make a great game, but then they made the DLC, which is, another standalone game following a different character in the same story, which further paints you into the world, lets you know more about it, and they did a really good job. They didn't skimp on it, in my opinion. It leaves you constantly going, oh my god, what's going to happen next, which makes for an amazing game. Now, I would like to see more games do this, more companies think about their fans. It's like, we know you're a multi-million, and in some cases, a billion-dollar corporation like Rockstar. Rockstar pisses me off. Okay, Grand Theft Auto 5, in my opinion, in some ways was good, and in some ways was terrible. I by no means hate Grand Theft Auto 5, but I think a lot of people may feel the same way as I do about it. Is if you've played Grand Theft Auto 5, and you've also played, is it Liberty City? The one where you play Nico Bellic, I think his name is. The one right before it was Grand Theft Auto 4, essentially. Grand Theft Auto 4 is so much better than 5. A lot of people may not agree with me, and understand what I'm saying is I'm not saying that Grand Theft Auto 5 was bad. I'm saying that with the amount of money that they have, the team, their popularity, they are far better off than they were when they made Grand Theft Auto 4. So you'd assume Grand Theft Auto 5 would be as good or better, right? Grand Theft Auto 5 wasn't terrible, but in my opinion, it kind of fell on its face for a multitude of reasons, and I'll explain why. Now, I don't want anybody to think that I'm just blatantly hating on this game, because I'm not. I still really enjoyed Grand Theft Auto 5. I just didn't like it as much as 4 because it felt like they kind of... I don't know if you want to say rushed it, if they just were like, that's good enough. And whenever anybody says that's good enough and when there could be room for improvement, that's when I get a little disappointed, With Grand Theft Auto 5, they made a game where You know, it has all the same things as 4, and then they even added some extra. Like they added an online version, which I'm like, awesome. I've always wanted to be able to play Grand Theft Auto with a friend. Not necessarily the story mode, which I think would be an amazing thing to do, but in just like, you know, free mode where you get to screw around and do whatever you want. Crash cars, race, shoot things, and I think a lot of people have had fun with this. So I know some people are probably going to hate on me, but like, no, Grand Theft Auto 5 is amazing. That's not what I'm saying. But if you've played the story, you know the 3 main characters. All right, I only remember, I think I know their names. It was Franklin, Michael, and I can't remember the last guy's name, but he was the one that was crazy. I think his name was like Frank or something. No, not Frank. What the hell was his name? He was the one that was like the redneck, like torn up, crazy one of the group. But the point is, you had the 3 characters, and it goes into their stories about who they are, and you know, you play from 3 different characters rather than the past games you only played as one of them. You know, you didn't, you know, have the experience of playing from 3 people. Now, am I saying that Rockstar shouldn't have done this? No, I think it was an amazing concept and a really good idea. I just think the way they carried it out was poor. What they gave you was good. What I'm complaining about is the fact that it felt kind of limited. You got almost like a splash into their world, but you didn't really get to know much about them. So it kind of left you never really, like, how can I say? It's like lackluster. You never really get too involved with one character, if you know what I'm saying. You sit there and you go, I want to know more, you know? Like, you want to know more into their stories, who they are as people, how did they get this way, what happened, and there's a lot of black spots in between. It's like when you watch a good show, an anime, a game, or whatever, and you get really involved with a character, and then they just don't explain enough, and then you sit there at the end, you finish the game, and you're just kind of like, you feel a little empty inside, because you're like, but I have so many questions. I feel unsatisfied. And that's the way Grand Theft Auto 5's ending left me. Do I think the game was bad? No, there was some points that made Grand Theft Auto 5 much better than 4. But Grand Theft Auto 4 had one thing that 5 didn't. It had a really compelling story between the Bellic brothers. I can't remember his brother's name. I think it was Roman. I think it was Roman. It was Roman and Nico. You know, you get to hear the whole story between the 2 of them, why he came to America, the relationship between the 2. It really did a good portrayal of who they were as people and what you should think about this. No, Katarina. Bad. That's a bad Katarina. And so you're left there with a game and you're like, this is amazing. So, Tyler, what's your point about all this? Why do you even care? What's this about? Well, what this is about is games who do good predecessors, right? And with Little Nightmares is coming out with its 3rd installment of Secrets of the Maw, and it's going to be finished then. But it seems like they're also explaining a lot of things that people were asking while doing so. I think they listen to their fans quite well and know what they want, and then they turn around and go, well, that's our customer. The customer is always right. Now, am I saying that they don't stay with their artistic integrity? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they do exactly what the fans want, but they at least look at what the fans want and go, is there a way that we can make that a reality while still doing it the way we want to do it? And that, I think, in itself is amazing. I think that's exactly what companies should do, and I think a lot of companies could learn from them. I'm impressed with them, and I hope that in the future, if they make more Little Nightmares, you know, games or games that are similar to it, or even if they're not related to it, I hope they follow the same formula as they go on, because it seems like companies like Rockstar and most companies, whether it be Sony or anything else, as they get bigger, it seems like they just don't give a shit about their fans. They take advantage, they end up milking the franchise, and they bring out a bunch of shit content that people buy anyway. And if you've seen nowadays, I actually saw a picture of this a while back, the difference between buying games now and buying games in the past. There's a lot of games that you buy that are beta games, that you early access kind of stuff. And I know you're always taking a risk with early access, but I think a lot of companies are just doing it because they're like, well, if we fail, you know, there's less risk to us. Now, if you're a small company and you can't afford to make a game without getting funding through early access, that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's what it was made for. But I see a lot of bigger game companies that don't need this jumping on the bandwagon, and it's sad because it's like before in the past, and I'll try to see if I can find this picture because it explains it really well so that I don't have to. But I'm gonna just kind of sum it up. Before, you bought a good game and it would be a full game, you know, a finished product. Now, am I saying early access is bad? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying other games, okay? Games that you buy and you pay $60 for, right? And then they bring out a bunch of DLC or a bunch of expansions that they don't really make the game any better. You know, they just kind of add some bullshit in, and it's super expensive, and it's just kind of milking your fans. And people would say, well, then just don't buy it. What I'm saying is I'm kind of upset with the fact that companies kind of have that little of respect for the people that made their game as popular. They forget about their fan base. You know, and I think Jacksepticeye, for those of you that watch his content or know who he is, he says something that I really agree with. A lot of YouTubers do this, a lot of people do this, a lot of companies do this, is they make something, right? Even if you look at my case, they make something like a movie, you know, or a game or whatever. And then as they get more popular, the less they care about the people who supported them through their infancy years, the years where their game either wasn't very popular or maybe it wasn't a very good game. Like when League of Legends first started, it was shit. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. The game was bad. Okay, it wasn't balanced. It looked bad. It overall wasn't great. But they had a good idea. See, and that's what mattered. And then with the expansion of their community, they came up with all kinds of stuff. I feel like League isn't a perfect example of this, but is a little bit. I feel like they don't care nearly as much about their fans as they should. Like, they do showcase and highlight things that were made by people of the genre, but I feel like they also kind of tend to milk their fans with these overinflated, like, gift boxes. Like, look, I know some people may argue with this, but the hex tech crafting isn't a bad thing. I don't think it is. But have you noticed more and more patches are coming out where people are essentially pouring money into these, oh, you know, buy this and you get all these tokens and boxes to unlock skins. It's a very shady road to go down. It really is. Because it's basically gambling on video games. And for some people, they may not have any problem with this. But for me, I like more of a system, and this could just be my point of view, my opinion, but I like more of a system where you get what you pay for. You know? Like, if you want Hex Tech Annie, you should be able to buy the gemstones with IP. Or, in this case, now Blue Essence. People would say, well, that's not going to make the company any money. I'm not saying that the gemstones have to be cheap. They should be like, you know, 15, 20,000 Blue Essence. I think they should be at least buyable with in-game cash. Now, people say, but it's a business. You're right. Now, I'm not saying it like they should make everything available for people that don't want to pay. But they have this paywall, essentially, with the way gemstones worked, where it's like, the chances of you getting enough gemstones to get a skin, like from Hextap, you're probably going to have to spend a lot of money. At least $100 or more for a skin that probably cost them almost nothing to make in comparison. Because, I mean, look at the Hextech skins. Are they really all that much nicer than, say, like Pulsefire Ezreal or some of these more, like, legendary skins? Like, realistically speaking, Are they nice enough to be charging what they're charging? I don't think they are. I mean, the paywall behind getting a gemstone skin, unless you're just lucky and open a box and boom, you get one, which the rarity of that is so low. You essentially are stuck in saying, well, I either have to grind and grind and grind and grind and grind. And anybody that knows me, I've played a lot of games. I've played a fuck ton of games. I'm probably reaching about 5,000 wins, if not more, by this point. And that doesn't even count the losses, mind you. Okay, I'm like a 50-50, so it's probably double that. So it's probably like around 10,000 games played. And I know that not all of those were since the boxes came out, but I've only actually ever gotten, I think, 1 or 2 gemstones. That's it. Like, the drop rate is so low. And I get what they're doing. I mean, from a business perspective, it makes sense. I just think it's kind of a shitty thing for them to do. Because here you have your fans, and they say, oh man, I really like Annie, or oh man, I really like Darius, or whatever. You like one of the skins, right? And you really want it. And then you throw that behind a paywall. And there's a lot of people that live in countries where they can't spend that kind of money. Like, they can't afford it because the US dollar or whatever currency that they're trying to convert over, it just isn't, it's expensive, you know? So I think them putting something behind a paywall that high for something that's not even, in my opinion, animated that well, it's all right. I mean, it's all right. It's not a bad skin, but like, they charge $20 for like a Pulsefire Ezreal. So I don't even know if it's 20. I think it's like between 50 and 20, right? Why is Hextech Annie worth more than that? Why is Hextech Annie? The whole reason they brought out Hextech skins is because what can't be obtained, or what's unique, or what less people have, instantly becomes worth more. It's kind of the whole supply and demand thing. You know, it's exotic, you know? That's why when, like, somebody from a foreign land comes over here, or vice versa, if American goes somewhere else, like if American goes to Japan, a lot of Japanese women are going to go, oh man, this guy's really attractive. And he can be considered average over here, but over there it's like, ooh, that's special. And that's kind of what they're doing with the Hextech system with the skins and the gemstones. They're going, here's this, like, ooh, you want this, especially if you main that champion, like if you mained Annie. Like if they made a Hextech Heimerdinger skin, I would both be happy but really pissed off, because God knows that I want it, because a lot of people will buy like all of the skins for their, you know, one trick of choice, and now all of a sudden you stuck this skin behind a paywall that chances are you're going to have to spend no less than $50 to even have a chance at getting, and that chance might be like 1 in 5 or 1 in 10. That's a problem for me. Okay, like if they want to charge more for it, if they want to charge $30 for, you know, Hextech Annie, fine. At least you're being honest about it, you know? But with this fucking random gamble system they've got going on, and there's no other way to obtain, you know, Annie without, like the Hextech Annie without getting really fucking lucky, or any of the other skins, I'm just using her as an example, it's kind of bullshit if you think about it. Like, at this point, why would they do that? You're milking your fans. It's not like, I don't know. Oh my god, oh, I'm dead. I had nowhere to go. I don't know. I don't want to ramble on about it too much, but I think you guys kind of get what I'm saying. I think overall the point of all this is, you see what Little Nightmares company did, you see what Rockstar did with their game, and then you see what, you know, like League of Legends does with their game. And I'm not saying that these companies are vindictive, that they, you know, oh, they're so selfish, they hate people, blah, 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 they don't care about their fans. I don't think that's entirely true. I just think they forget to be humble. And one of the things Jacksepticeye says, and I use him as a point of reference because I highly agree with his way of thinking about it. He goes, these are the people that got you where you are. Now, yes, you did put in a lot of work. Yes, they built a good company, etc. And I'm not saying that, you know, they owe us anything. I'm not saying it like that. But I'm also saying there is a point where it feels like you're turning your back on your fans. And that's kind of messed up. You know? You see a lot of high-powered celebrities that are like this. You see, like, Logan Paul. You see, you know, Justin Bieber would be a good example. Like, Justin Bieber's up on his balcony, and he's spitting off the balcony onto his fans. Now, some of these girls that were obsessed with him, that might have been their wish come true, but at the same time, imagine if you were one of the girls that respected him for whatever reason and weren't crazy, and he did this to you, and it's like, this is somebody that looks up to you, and you're spitting on them, and he's not spitting on them like out of hatred per se, but he thinks it's funny. You know, it's for his own selfish reasons, which is the way I kind of look at how, you know, Riot or any game company kind of forgets about, you guys wouldn't have gotten where you are if it wasn't for your fans. Am I saying that there's you know, a payment there? No, I'm saying it's kind of more like an ethical thing. It's like, should you do it? You could do it, but should you? You know, and I think that's the problem with everything that we're seeing anymore with video games, is companies know they can get away with it. People are still going to buy their product, and I think being as though they know they can get away with it, they're going to continue to do it. So you got one of two choices. Either companies need to wise up, which, you know, when money is involved, most people are not going to. But you also have to realize, oh, I'm going to die. Yep, I couldn't move. You got to realize that although you can do this, is there maybe a more productive way of doing this? You know, Riot, I'm not saying that you can't make money. You're a business. It makes sense. You know, Rockstar, I'm not saying you can't make money. It's a business. But when you throw out the feelings of your customers, that's when I start to kind of go, you know, this is kind of fucked up. PUBG did this as well. PUBG, the fans said, we don't want loot crates that you have to pay for. And they were like, okay, we won't do it, right? And then they went back on what they said and did it anyway. And people were outraged. I mean, people were pissed. And people would say, well, it's their game. They can do what they want. And that is 100% true. I'm not trying to act all high and mighty and say that they can't do that. How dare they? I'm saying it from more of a, you can do it, but should you? You know? It's like, can I play Heimerdinger Jungle? Probably. Should I do it? Probably not. You know? One of the other problems that I noticed with, like, Rockstar and the Grand Theft Auto 5 was not just the main storyline, but let's say the cooperative, multiplayer, where you can hang out. They brought out a lot of DLC. A lot of it. Right? For vehicles and all kinds of stuff. And it was really, really expensive in-game currency. But with enough grinding or this or that, you could do it. Here's the problem. The only way to make big money on that game was to do the heists, which, in essence, are one of the fun things to do, especially with friends. Right? But here's another problem with that. Alright? You have a lot of people who... Oh, fuck.